Hi, my name is Jason Wise. Today I'll be installing a Data911 tablet PC into a 2016 Ford Interceptor Utility. Now before I get started on the installation, I'd like to do a quick overview of the products I'll be using today. Starting with the Data911 TX1 tablet. This is a semi-rugged, high-bright tablet PC designed for the emergency vehicle market. I will also be using a vehicle dock that's specifically designed for the TX1 tablet. As you can see, this vehicle dock is very slim in profile and footprint, designed to take up very little room in the cabin of the vehicle. I'll also be using a DC-DC power supply to power the vehicle dock and to charge the tablet batteries when it's in the dock. Here's a keyboard I'll be using, and I'll be installing all of this equipment on a Hint Peripherals pedestal mount, specifically a 5502 pedestal mount. This pedestal mount is universal in nature, as in it'll bolt into many different cars with vehicle-specific feet. This pedestal mount also comes with a double articulating keyboard arm, essentially a platform to put your keyboard on. The top of the pedestal mount comes with an interface for the vehicle dock that's also an articulating arm. With that said, let's get started with the installation. Okay, the first step of the installation process is to plan your install. In this case, there's not much to it considering the pedestal mount bolts to the passenger front seat bolts, and there's not many configuration options to that mount. So that's pretty straightforward. I do need to plan for where I'm going to put my DC-DC power supply. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the center console itself. The center console offers some protection to the DC power supply, the wiring, and it also gives me a nice place to pick up my 12-volt power source. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and start the disassembly of the console. Okay, as you can see, I've opened up the center console and I've gone ahead and mounted my power supply on the base plate down below. I have connected my input power by cutting off the cigarette lighter adapter that comes with the power supply because I wanted to hardwire that power supply into the vehicle power. So I cut it off and I used some crimp connectors to tap into a cigarette lighter charging port. And I used a 10 amp fuse in order to protect the DC-DC power supply. I went ahead and routed the output side of the power supply out of the bottom of the console here, and it's coming out over by the passenger feet so that I can connect the power wiring to the vehicle dock once I get the pedestal mount and vehicle dock installed. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and button the console back up. Okay, the next step of the installation process is to remove the two front seat bolts of the passenger side front seat. In order to access those bolts, I'm going to go ahead and remove the plastic trim assembly that's right over the top of them. And I've gone ahead and removed the two 13mm bolts already for the sake of the video. I have installed the vehicle-specific feet to the universal base. And I've done that and left them loose in order to be able to adjust them. Now that I've got this base plate in here, I'm going to go ahead and slip the feet under the plastic trim so I can line the feet up with the seat bolts. Alright, I've got my base in. Now that I've got the base in, I'm going to go ahead and install the two 13mm bolts. Okay, as you can see here, I've got all the bolts installed. So now as the next step, I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything up. The two front passenger seat bolts, as well as the vehicle-specific feet that bolt to the base plate of the pedestal mount. Okay, now that I've got the vehicle dock power wiring installed and the pedestal base installed, I'm going to go ahead and get the keyboard mounting platform, double articulating arm installed, and it's important to notice that I've got the height limiting collar on here. This height limiting collar is set by just an Allen wrench, and essentially what that does is it allows the keyboard arm to only go down a certain distance, and that's so that this keyboard arm can clear the radio console or whatever other equipment might be in the vehicle. So with that keyboard arm installed, I'm going to go ahead and install the tablet dock interface component on the top. This also has a height limiting restrictor collar so that if you want it to stay at a certain height, you can adjust it accordingly. So now that these are installed, I'm going to go ahead and get my keyboard and my vehicle dock installed, and then I'm going to go back and make sure that I install my strut brace to be able to control the movement of the vehicle mount here. This pedestal mount does not have a lot of lateral strength, so it requires a strut rod from this acorn bolt here to a self-tap bolt up in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and get my keyboard, my vehicle dock, and my strut arm installed next. Okay, now that this pedestal mount is assembled and installed on the seat bolts, I'm going to move forward with the installation of the strut brace. The strut brace is designed to bolt to one of two locations here on the side of the pedestal mount. Comes with a mounting hardware, and you can mount it forward and put a self-tap sheet metal screw on the front of the brace there, or you could bring it rearward and bolt it to the console. Kind of regardless, some sort of stabilization with that strut brace is necessary in order to resolve this lateral movement of the mount forward and backwards. So I know a new version of the mount has a mounting flange to be able to bolt this pedestal mount directly to the side of the console without a strut brace necessarily. Many different configurations of mounts and vehicles. You may have to improvise, but please know that it is imperative that we get this lateral movement resolved and this mount firmed up tight. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the strut brace installation. I'm going to get the vehicle dock mounted on the top of the pedestal mount with the mounting hardware provided and the metal straps, and get the keyboard on the tray and try to get this installation wrapped up. Okay, as you can see, I've got my strut brace installed, which has fixed all the lateral motion of the mount itself. I've got the vehicle dock on the pedestal mount. I've got the keyboard on the keyboard tray. And one final thing I wanted to point out was that I did use the fasteners from Hint Peripherals along with these metal straps to connect the vehicle dock to the pedestal mount. I also used a zip tie and the holes provided on the top of the vehicle mounting plate for the vehicle dock to strain relief the cables to make sure there's no pull on the cables, the connectors themselves. This is crucial for long-term success and performance of the computer system. So the only thing I have left to do here is loom up the cables, adjust the mount, and call this installation complete.